Hello. Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Randy Debono. Hi, everyone. My name is Randy Debono, otherwise known as Debono Art. So I'm here to do the artist takeover. So I'll start by telling you a little bit about myself. Okay. I'm a freelance artist and illustrator. Just gonna move over here so you can see some of my work, which is over there. Um, Basically, what I do is whether it could be like a book cover illustration, I do submit to galleries, I do commissions, um, pretty much all across the board. But what I do is I work traditionally. Okay, so I first started out doing digital work, but I prefer to have something tangible, something that I can physically have at the end of my creation. So you can see, like, sorry, it's weird with the camera. You see, like, behind me, I have a physical piece at the end of the process of making the art, which for me personally is a lot more rewarding. Because when I was doing it digitally, I just felt like it was just zeros and ones in a computer, and my studio was pretty much bare. It was just like a computer, and that's it, you know, and probably just my reference material. So I got my list of questions. Okay, so I'm gonna go through these, and I'll talk about my how I started and everything, and then we'll do some Q&A afterwards. If anybody has any comments. Right. So again, my name is Randy Debono. I was born in Canada, and when I was 10, we moved to Malta. My parents are Maltese, and my surname is Maltese, which is Debono. Um, and then when I was 19, I came to England, to the UK. I was on a course, completely different course. I was on a chef's course. So what we do is we get like a placement at the end of our third year or something. So I ended up in London. Anyway, and I met my future wife there, and she was from Sheffield. That's how I ended up in Sheffield, which I much prefer living in Sheffield. It's such a beautiful city, and it's really green, and it's really nice people and everything. Um, but obviously, I didn't like working as a chef. It was very unsociable, so I wanted to do something else. Now, with me in art, I always drew. Okay, in my textbooks at school, um, anywhere in my free time. This is what I love doing more than anything. And I thought, oh, what if I can, make a career out of this? What if I can support myself and live off doing my art? It's living the dream, basically. So, so basically, I just, knuckled down, studied. I didn't go to any formal art school. Not that I think you need to at all, because art, um, or at least the art that I do, is more of a skill and it requires practice. What I did do was take lots of classes. So whether it be figure drawing, or so much content online, even like color theory, stuff like that. At the moment, I'm kind of pushing away from color and going more monochromatic. So these ones behind me, I don't know if you can see them properly, that way. Um, these are my latest ones. You can see them all on my website and on my social media and stuff like that. So you can see more kind of high-res copies of them. So you'll recognize these drawings once you see them, basically. So basically, all I did was just build up on top of that, okay, and just worked and worked and study and study and practice and practice. So I think it was about 7 years ago, I decided I want to do this professionally. I was sat on a beach in Morocco with my wife, and I was reading this magazine called ImagineFX. It's a magazine which is done in England, which is fantastic, and it's published worldwide. Really, really good. If you want to get into illustration, digital drawing, everything, it's really in there. There's so many artists that I followed who are really doing this stuff currently right now, which is so supportive. There's another thing called One Fantastic Week, um, which is great. They're on YouTube. They do these podcasts. They're basically supporting independent artists trying to make their own kind of thing. So what we want to do is, what I'm doing at the moment is creating my own kind of brands and basically the art that I want to create. I'm creating this thing called it's called a crown of wings. So I'm an artist, a fantasy artist in Illustrator. So that's kind of the genre that I like the best. Kind of imaginative realism as well. So there's kind of like all these kind of names for it, but it's just something that's gonna make you go, holy crap, that looks great. That's the that's what we're going for over here. And basically, losing my train of thought now. So all these things are supporting them. Okay, so I was on the beach in Morocco and I thought, oh, I saw this illustrations. I'm thinking I want to do that. The artwork just blew me away. And I'm thinking, oh, how can I, get to that level? So then I started investing more time into it, watching all this free resource, which is available to us constantly on YouTube and other platforms. I do my own time-lapse videos, which you can find on YouTube as well. All my social media directs you there as well. So, look up that, look up the other artists and that, and it's just, one after another. It's like, oh, I want to learn how to do, say, watercolor. Go onto that, what's the basics of it, and then build up on top of that. I wouldn't suggest going into something like, oh, wow, this guy did this amazing watercolor illustration, and go watch that straight away. I'd look at something like, let's look at the basics. How does it react to the paper? How much water do you have to do? Wet on wet? Is it dry? So it's just learning these things now. But the most important thing is you practicing, okay? And that's what it is all about. So in this lockdown, what I did is I never really had the time to start my own project. So these these illustrations were done in the past 2 weeks. I said, okay, this is the way I want to go, and this is the vision I want to do. So I created this thing it's called a crown of wings. So I've updated all my social media so you can kind of see it on there a bit more in depth. I'm also on Patreon now, so it's where you can go and support the artists and donate for us to create our own kind of content rather than relying on what's called freelance work, where we're illustrating for someone else. I keep that on the side, but I want to concentrate more on this. So on the Patreon, if no one's ever heard of it, it's basically it's a reward tier system. Okay, so what it is there's certain pledges at certain at certain levels of monetary value, that if you pledge, say, £3 or £5, whatever the tier is, you get different rewards for it. So basically, you can get prints for some of the tiers, or you can get original artwork. Depends what tiers you get, and these are on like a monthly basis as well. So it's a great way for independent artists to start, creating their own work and making their voices heard. Because that's really what it's all about, isn't it? It's just finding that funding, and this is, I think, mostly the kind of more modern way of doing these things. Right, so some more questions. My influences, okay? Now, a lot of artists would say, oh, it's like Michelangelo, Leonardo, and all that. I love the masters, of course. I love the use of the dark and the light and everything. But my people who I like are more current. There's too many to mention, so off the top of my head, I've got a few written down. One of them is Frank Frazetta, genius, fantasy illustrator, painter. It's just, the way he painted was just so beautiful. Norman Rockwell, awesome. Simon Beasley, who's a comic book artist, who blew me away with his Slain illustrations. I think it's back in the 90s or that. Each one was like painted, what's it called, square, or everything that he did for those layouts. And it was just phenomenal. It was just beautiful work, And Drew Struzan, the poster, the guy who did all the posters for all those big movies back in the 80s. I watched one of his workshop videos, and it just broke it down. And I encourage people to look at more other artists, the way they the way they break down their method that they do it. You know, you don't have to necessarily do it how they do it, but what you can do is, you know, learn things. You know, it's like, oh, I can, you know, spray something on this and I'll get this reaction, or I can mix this with this and I can get this effect. You know what I mean? So as an artist, what I definitely recommend is that you keep experimenting. You know, because you know, people out there could be finding their style or trying to find a style, and the best way to do that is practice. You know, practice. Just think of things that you like to do. It's like, oh, I love watercolors, but I'm scared of doing it. What's there to be scared of? You know, if you get a few pieces of paper, try it out. That's all you need to do. And then what's going to happen? Something's going to happen. It's like you'll be thinking, well, wait a minute. Okay, if I do this, this is going to happen. You start understanding the way these mediums work. You know, same digitally. Digitally even better because you can just like Control Z and just go back a space and, you know, fix it. But I think with traditional media, it's a more of a discipline. So if you make a mistake, you know, you want to make sure you're not making mistakes because it's harder to correct, you know. But again, you can correct these things too. So, you know, there's ways of doing these. Um, okay, so let's see. I've displayed at the Great Sheffield Art Show. I think that was my first, what's it called? My first gallery. And basically from there, it was just like, I thought, yeah, I want to do this even more. So then I started to get into more freelance illustration, just promoting, you know, where you can go on these various sites. I'm on Hire an Illustrator, which I've started recently. So that's like a worldwide thing where you can get in contact with publishers, art directors, everything. So it just goes through this kind of website. I think you just pay like monthly, and the day that I put up my profile, I got a freelance job, which is fantastic. So I'm in negotiations with that, and this will be my first children's book. I think it's like 16 illustrations altogether. So I'm looking forward to creating that. Um, and yeah, just, you know, looking forward to the future really with this thing. Just going through the things again. Oh, so I'm going to be doing Comic Cons and conventions when they get back up. So I have my stall set up because this is the year that I was going to go out and do all that. So I've got my prints ready, everything to go out. But as soon as I was supposed to do my first one, the coronavirus hit and the Sheffield Comic Con, which was going to be my first one, was canceled. So this was like on the Friday, and the event was going to be on a Sunday. So, you know, once everything opens again, I'll be out there. You know, I'd love to meet everyone. This is the whole thing. I don't want to be in isolation in my studio constantly. And what else? Yeah, so I've got conventions. I do the YouTube thing as well, so you can see my work like in a time lapse. How I, you know, do certain paintings or drawings. They're all on there. And then my Patreon, what I do with my Patreon, like on YouTube, it's just the time lapse. Where my Patreon, I do a voiceover, so I explain kind of the method and what I'm doing to give you more of an idea of how I do all these things. I'm not sure how to do these comments. No comments are coming up. But I'll do a bit of Q&A now. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, you know, I'll be happy to answer. I don't think anything's coming up now in the comment section. Trying to see. Nope. I assume we're supposed to come on the left of the screen, so anyhow. If anybody can comment, just like say hi or something so I know where it's popping up and I can maybe make sure that's working and that's all on. I don't know if I was supposed to set the comment. Oop. Anyhow. Right, so I'll just continue talking then. If there's no comments. Oh, wait a minute. I think it's coming up here. Oh, of course, I didn't have my comment section open. Awesome. I'm so technically minded. Okay. Is this it? Nope, that's not it. Okay. Anyhow, so what I'm doing now is it's called A Crown of Wings. So what I'm doing is putting together this what's called this. It's basically telling a story through these illustrations and these paintings. So it's going to be a collection of them. So you can see kind of behind me right now, that way. These are the first of the illustrations that are going into it. It has that monochromatic feel, kind of pushing towards that. So these were done with graphite and pencil. Some other things I'm going to at the moment is actual Prisma color pencils. So these are really nice, fine pencils and everything. Um, and just adding a little bit of color. I'm not going to be doing too much color to my new kind of illustrations for this. The idea behind this is that eventually what I'll do is create a book out of this. So it's not going to be like a full illustration book with 1,000 words. It's just going to be more about the illustrations telling the story. So it'll have the illustration and then kind of like maybe just like a paragraph or two explaining the picture and explaining the story in a kind of linear fashion. Like this person started out here, and this is how it ended up over here. These kind of events and stuff like that. So at the moment, I'm just doing like random pictures from here and there, people from this kind of world and this lore, and what's it called? And just bringing that to life, really. Um, I'll be doing most of the behind-the-scenes stuff through my Patreon page. So the people who pay for the Patreon page will get the first glimpse at this kind of development of this body of work. I have those 3 horses. I can do this again. I have the 3 horses behind me. They're going to be a print that will go out to my Patreons as well. And what's it called? Basically, when you sign up, these will be the prints. They'll be like A5 prints, and there'll be a set of 3 to mark this crown of wings. That's the kind of the thing behind that at the moment. I'm working on one at the moment. You can see on my social media at Debono Art, which is pretty much across the platform. Again, you can find it through my website, and I've put the links and the connections over here. And yeah, it'd be great for you to follow along. I'm going to put the behind-the-scenes stuff. I'll record stuff like process stuff, thumbnails. Where do these illustrations start from? Where do they come from, these ideas? I don't know. So it's just a bit more about the thought process, the structure of it. It's not just like, oh, I'm just going to draw something on a piece of paper today. It doesn't work like that. Not anymore. Not at this level. So it's a case of we start with thumbnails. Ideas. Where do the ideas come from? I can look at like a pattern on, I don't know, a curtain or something, and I can see an image. Look in the sky. So what happens over time as an artist, or when you look for these things, they find you. You see them in things. It's this really weird kind of an amazing thing that happens. It's just like you just be looking in things, and it's just like, wow, that'd make a really amazing painting. Condensation, that's a really great one on Windows. You just see the way the things trickle down. And it's like, wow, I can see forms then. So ideally what your eye is doing is you're looking for shapes, right? And these shapes are going to create these images for you. And before you know it, you have this library of like, oh, that'd be great. But to reconfirm it, if it is really great, you need to do thumbnails, sketches, and then from those sketches, what I'll do is I'll do like a refined drawing, and then on that drawing, it's just detail, So the art process really, for me, is coming up with the idea. That's where, like, say, talent lies compared to skill. Because then after that, after you come up with the idea, you have the blueprint, it's all a skill. It's all rendering, making that thing. That's all the technical ability then. So that's where I find where the magic happens. I love doing the research into things as well. You just find out so much more about the subject you're doing, even the content, and you just understand it better. And that's I think you get a better piece out of something that you create once you do that. So like behind me, it's not just drawing a horse. The horse has butterfly wings on it. Whoa, that's freaking amazing. You know, it's just a case of like push those boundaries. You know, don't be afraid to do it either, because so many people are just hold back or afraid to express themselves. Like, oh, it won't be great. It's like, well, you never know until you do it. You know, or at least do it to a point where you feel you're comfortable doing it. Anyway, we hit 20 minutes here, and I'm gonna sign off. So if there's any questions, I'll stay on and answer them. But thank you so much for joining me. Again, my name is Randy Debono from Debono Art, and yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye.